All right, welcome back to Project Gratis, the project of where two kids go from zero to a $50 million app sale. Today's video, we're going to get into how to utilize different AIs and ChatGPTs, different things like that to maximize your output, and especially for anyone that does not have software engineering experience like myself. Again, in this business, I'm more on the business side, the data side, and the sports side, and Sam is more on the AI and actually building out the website aspect. Today's video is just me as Sam is traveling, so I'm just doing kind of a video overall of what's going on in the app. Excuse me, what's going on in the app and how I'm able to build out different profiles and different web pages on this application without knowing anything about actual coding experience, and kind of go into the detail of how I can use Codex along with ChatGPT to build out these features, and then kind of iterate off of those different ideas. So you can see here, I broke out the AI into three different categories of vibe coding, AI code assistants like inline helpers, and then AI chats. So one, vibe coding is more so different apps you can use that you just go into the app, type in, hey, I want you to build me, a sports prediction model. And I did try that. They're very helpful for kind of creating small MVPs, or you can really build out full apps. You can use apps like Vibe Coder, or I believe it's called Vibe Code or Vibe Code app. There's the Anything app, I believe, and there's some other ones. They're really helpful, and you can kind of build out the code pretty quickly. The problem is, one of the issues we ran into was tokens. They chew up a ton of tokens. So you go from a free plan, then you have to go to a higher plan, then you have to go to another higher plan. And it was one of the reasons that we ended up kind of moving away from it. And one of the other aspects was you're not able to actually see the source code unless you're on a very high level. And we wanted to be able to access the actual source code and edit the code itself and build it out from there. Whereas some people don't. Some people, they have zero programming skills. They don't want to see any code. They don't really know how it works. I come up from a data engineering background, so I can at least understand the framework, although I can't read it per se to fully understand it. I can understand the concepts that are shown from my experience of working with SQL and kind of with Python. So that's kind of where people use vibe coding. Where people use AI code assistants, and this is what I use a lot, especially too. I'll show you guys how I was able to use a AI code assistant to build out actually our user profile page, and I'll show you the user profile page as well. But with these you can embed inside of different software, for example, like VS Code. So VS Code is a software that programmers use to actually build out the code, write out the code in different languages, and you can use it along with GitHub to kind of store your code, excuse me, and test out, and run the code itself. I said code like 5,000 times, but that's what we use is VS Code to actually build out the code itself and test the app. And what you can do is you can hook up your accounts with Codex or Claude, or GitHub has the GitHub Pilot. I think VS Code has their own as well. I believe you can probably use Gemini, whichever code assistant you want, and you can put in different requirements of what you want the app to do. And the biggest benefit of using them in VS Code is it has access to all of your files, right? So it can go in, check what the different files were, especially too from an app standpoint. It can make sure that when we were building the user profile page, when it was building out the front end on the mobile app of what the user profile would look like, it also checked the back end and updated those scripts as well that had to connect to our data warehouse, Supabase, because we're feeding data back and forth. Again, the user information for the actual user information of their names, their email, and things like that to send those into Supabase. And then on the pull side, pulling data from Supabase of their different favorite teams, what different betting types they want, and so forth. AI chats you can use, and I actually use it to build this thumbnail. They're very helpful for building out code and talking and getting different ideas. And you can actually get full scale code from them. But the only problem is they don't talk directly to the actual repositories and the folders where all of the code is built. So it's tough for it to understand kind of the project overall. But you get some great ideas from there, especially too when I'm building out kind of the business strategy and the business model, and even getting different ideas for YouTube. They're super, super helpful. Now, here is actually the prompt I used to first create the user profile page. Now, something you might have heard before is something called prompt engineering, which is kind of a very new idea of understanding the best way to get the most out of these AI agents. One thing that I've learned after using them for the past couple of years is you want to try to be as specific as possible with the different details, but then also leave out, or not so leave out, but give the chat and the AI room to breathe and kind of create different ideas. So you can see here, I said, hey, I want to create a user profile page. I want to start with the main personal information and send this information to Supabase and the users table. So also too, again, I talk about how I'm a data engineer. That's my background. So I'm like, I wrote it out as what's the first name, or as you know, or what is the kind of input that I want, as well as what is the data type that we're beginning using. So first name varchar, last name varchar, email varchar, date of birth date, gender varchar, a pick list. Now, a pick list is something I was talking about earlier when you have the mobile app pulling information from the data warehouse. And what a pick list does is it's a predetermined list. And for example, on a UI user interface, you might know these as a drop-down list. So say, for example, you're applying for a job and they say, hey, what state do you live in? You click the drop-down list and it shows, Alabama, Mississippi, Florida, Massachusetts. That's called a pick list in software engineering. So again, same thing, favorite teams, and I want an array. What an array is an assortment of a ton of different options within a pick list. Now, see, from a gender, you have to pick one: male, female, or other. So that would be considered, and talk about different names. It's not considered a radio button. A radio button just means you select one, but an array allows you to pick multiple, because you can pick multiple of your favorite teams. You can say, hey, I really like football and hockey. You can say your favorite bet types, especially two bet types. What are the different bets you want? Overs, totals, or you want totals, spreads, money lines, really like DFS and player props and stuff like that. And then also too, varchar on the subscription plan, what the different subscription plans are, and then foreign key. In data, when you're trying to map tables together in different informational tables, you use something called a foreign key to map to a different table. Now, the main table would be the primary key. So for example, on subscription plan, primary key would be the subscription ID. And the foreign key just means what's the value that you're then pointing to another table to get, which would be user ID. And I'm pretty sure I had that in the right direction. So I plugged this into our Codex, which then went through. The other thing too, when you're using these different software tools, an AI assistant, an inline assistant will take much longer because it has to read through, one, what you wanted, but two, that it'll read through every single file that you have in the project, which again can burn a ton of credits if you're using like a vibe coding type app. Not specifically the vibe code app, just like vibe coder apps in general. It can burn a lot of credits, and that's an issue we ran into. Whereas in ChatGPT, it's just giving you strict information. So it prints it out pretty quickly. And so again, that's kind of how they work. And I'll show you kind of how using this prompt, then built out this actual page. So this right here is a user profile page. So originally I took that prompt and put it into Codex, and it started building out different, kind of like a base of what the user profile would be. Because again, when you're just starting to use the inline coders, you just kind of want to get a base, not get overly specific, because then it could get confusing, kind of do things you don't want. And also too, again, from my point of view, I'm not a programmer. I don't know what the output is going to look like. So I put that in, and then I kind of was able to talk back and forth with it. So one thing that wasn't originally there wasn't the edit profile and save profile. But if you see here, you can put your name, last name, email address. You can select your date of birth, and you can see it pulls up the different date that you can play for your birthday. Now, again, the pick list I was talking about, we go to gender, male, female, other. So again, that's just one selection. But the array selection, you go to the different sports. So I can pick, hey, Red Sox, I love the Cubs, and I love, the Rockies. Being a Rockies fan might be tough, but I actually like them a lot. You see here now, we pick those teams, and look at here. It now shows those 3 teams that you picked. Going back to it, again, the AI only is good as what you tell it to do. So originally I just said, hey, I said, hey, I want an array pick list from the teams table that we have inside of Supabase. So it just went through and pulled every single team name. It just pulled all the team names and put them all in one list. And I was like, oh, I need to, again, this is where you need to start getting more specific on certain things. So I was like, hey, can we break this out by sport? So I was able to break it out by sport. And then I realized, hey, I can only select one at a time. So then you kind of get more and more fine-tuned depending on what different levels of granularity are that you want, as well as, what is the use case for it. And on the opposite side here, this was kind of what it was to begin with. It just said first name, last name, email, and, it worked out really well. Another thing too, I want to go back on, talking about just a quick side note, and I can talk about this in another video, is kind of cron jobs and edge functions inside of Supabase. I'll talk about that in another video, but they're super, super helpful in using ChatGPTs and different chat prompts to build those, because again, they're just one phase function, right? I need to pull in the game stats for how well the historical data of the games, or the game player stats, see how well those are doing. So those are just one-off prompts and one-off codes that I need. That's a fantastic time to just use specifically ChatGPT. So now again, down here, I can pick different teams, ML, or different sports that I want. Okay, I'm a big NFL, NCAA guy. And again, we're talking about the MVP. The whole MVP right now is just an NBA, but I want to kind of build these out. Eventually, we'll have college basketball, women's college basketball, WNBA. As we expand and get more money and get more users, we're able to use that money to then reinvest back into the APIs that we can get and the data, and it's super helpful. The other thing here, this is the different bet types. So again, it's just the different bet types were just showing up. Or they actually weren't showing up at all. This was just said no selections, and there was no options. And the reason for this is the connections back in our Supabase. I need to fix it and allow for the connection to connect to the app. And then this is also a subscription. So another great example of, and I kind of wish I recorded this when I was making, maybe one of the times next time I make one of these pages, I'll record the whole process of going back and forth and actually building out the page itself. Was I just said, hey, the prompt is just subscription plan varchar via public.subscription underscore plan, foreign key, user ID, renewal date, time. So to that, it just said, hey, the date, time, and it said pick your renewal date, which again, we don't want people to pick their own renewal date. These are on a subscription model. And so the renewal date would actually be based on Supabase, and the renewal date will show up here along with the different subscription plan. Right now, we don't have any subscription plan models yet, but we'll be kind of fine tuning those and kind of how we want that working in the business going forward. And then, you just save the profile, or this is a perfect example. Again, save the profile, different fields are required. Name has to be required. Last name has to be required, and the email. So as an overview, there are multiple different AI tools that you can use at your dispense. There are inline AI tools that you can use. I use Codex because also too I use ChatGPT. And a lot of times too, if you have a ChatGPT account, Codex is their AI inline user. So I was able to just connect that, and I have the Pro account. Also too, I think probably Cursor is like probably one of the biggest well-known code helper agents. Vibe coding apps are huge. They're super helpful. A lot of people are able to make really cool apps off of those. And if that's what the plan you want to go with, I highly recommend it as well. I think the biggest names there is the actual Vibe Code app as well as the Anything app, I believe. So again, learning kind of the AI tech stack that you want to use and then using them all in unison with each other can be super beneficial to you. Again, especially when you don't have software engineering experience. It's funny, when I pushed the branch to this or created the branch, Sam was like, you wrote over 600 lines of code. Like, I didn't write it. I used AI to write it. That kind of wraps up our video. If you made it all the way here, please make sure to like, subscribe, comment. We will see you in next week's video, and let us know in the comments anything you guys want us to cover in the videos. We have a ton of stuff. We're looking at the different data models. We look at different business plans. There's a ton of stuff that we could go through. And if there's anything that you guys want to learn about or know about or see kind of the business side of under the hood, let us know and I'll add it in the next video. So again, please make sure to like, subscribe, comment, and I'll see you in next week's video.